So rich young toffs between 20 to 30-year-olds are to blame, Brendan ONeill, for this latest spike in coronavirus cases. What do you reckon?
No, I think Matt Hancock is actually out of order. And I agree with one of the people who's texted your show. I don't think we should be blaming particular groups. I don't think we should be talking about a virus in that way, as if it's, something that people are to blame for, people are responsible for. There are many explanations for why young people are now getting higher cases of COVID-19. They're getting tested more. A lot of young people were cooped up at home for a very long time. They couldn't go to school. They couldn't go to university. They couldn't go to social venues. And now they're doing those things. So it makes sense that there would be a spike in younger generations. I really think we shouldn't overreact to it, because even though there is an upward spike of COVID cases, there is no upward spike of hospitalizations and no upward spike of deaths at the moment. And I think we've got to keep it in perspective.
The issue that I have, Brendan, is I just can't imagine what it must be like to be a 21-year-old at the moment with all of the mixed messages going on, because you have Rishi Sunak saying, please go out with your friends, eat and drink. I'm going to give you some money in order to do that. You have Gavin Williamson saying it's absolutely safe to be in an educational institution given your age and the negligible risk. Then you have to listen to Matt Hancock say, oh, but by the way, if you do that, you might kill your granny. I mean, it's quite unfair, the position we're putting young people in, isn't it?
I completely agree, and I think it reflects confusion in the government itself. That's where the real problem is. There are clearly some people in government, I think Rishi Sunak is definitely one of them, who recognise that the lockdown is going to have detrimental consequences, especially economically, especially in relation to jobs. And he wants to get, people like him want to get the nation moving again. And then there are other people in government who are super cautious, incredibly worried, and in some cases spreading the politics of fear, who are saying, let's all be super safe and possibly even bring in some lockdown measures again. That confusing message is helping no one. My view is that we can't live in lockdown forever. We just can't live like that. We can't keep going back to a situation where we're hiding away from a virus. This virus is now part of the family of human diseases. That's all there is to it. We're going to have to live with it for a long time until there's a vaccine. And we have to face up to that fact rather than running away or blaming certain groups or telling people off simply because they want to get on with their lives.
And there are a lot of positive signs that we're fighting this thing medically much better than we were back in the very dark days of March and April. And the thing is, Brendan, if we continue this economic catastrophe, especially once the furlough scheme ends, poverty will actually cause many, many more excess deaths in the future. Not to mention, by the way, the ticking cancer time bomb, which I'm constantly talking about on this show, and all of the mental health issues that are being caused by the fear of lockdown and the fear of COVID.
Absolutely. The impact of the lockdown could prove in the long run to be worse than the impact of the virus if we are not careful. I think the way in which the NHS was turned into almost an exclusively COVID-19 service for 3 or 4 months was a disaster. We missed cancer diagnoses. There were reports of more people dying from heart attacks and strokes than would normally be the case. That was a disaster. Economically speaking, we are going to create a huge amount of unemployment. We're heading for the worst recession on record, and we know that recessions give rise to ill health, early death, despair, and other kinds of ailments and diseases. We have to get the nation back on its feet. And the young people in particular, the thing that's really irritated me about blaming, I like to bash millennials and Gen Z as much as anyone else, but the thing that's irritated me about blaming young people for this, they've made huge sacrifices. They've lost months of education. Their job prospects are plummeting. Their social lives and their love lives have fallen apart over the past few months. And now they want to get back to normal life. And that's a healthy instinct. And I think we should actually encourage it rather than being down on it.
I agree, because remember, and I know it's the dreaded term, but that's where you can achieve a bit of herd immunity too without putting people's lives at risk. They've also lost gap years because they're unable to travel. I mean, I totally agree that this group has had to sacrifice a lot. Now we hear the latest threat, Brendan, coming from some other government scientists, including Professor John Edmonds, who's a member of SAGE, saying, hang on a minute, you might not be able to have Christmas with your friends and family this year. Now, clearly that has been a concern of mine for some time, given that Christmas is going to be right in those dark days of cold winter months with a paranoid government. But does it really help at the start of September, telling people what you've got to look forward to is a Christmas spent sitting on your own at home? It's just very weird messaging, I think.
Very weird messaging, very depressing messaging. There's no sense of hope coming from some sections of the government. And I think it's not what people want to hear. People want to hear that the government is creating strategies to get the economy and normal life back in action. And, young people have made a lot of sacrifices. But now let's think about the older generation. The question of how long can we lock people away? People with maybe 2 years left to live, 1 year left to live, 6 months left to live. These are the kind of people who will really be looking forward to Christmas, really be looking forward to someone's birthday coming up. We can't keep saying to the nation, hide away, don't go out, don't mix with people. I think it's a dangerous message. And I think actually, as you say, there's a positive to be taken from the fact that there are a higher number of cases amongst young people, which is that it is contributing to herd immunity in a safe way, because we know that young people don't get impacted too badly by the virus. We've got to start looking at this in the round and the question of what the country and the economy needs, rather than spreading fear.
I agree. Brendan ONeill, so great to have you, the editor of Spiked Online. What do you think? 0344 499 1000.